Hello, I got that curious George goes to the hospital. This is George. He lived with his friend, the man with the yellow hat, this good little monkey, but he's always curious. Today, George was curious about the big box on the man mask. What could it be? George could not resist it. He simply had to open it. Funny, it was full of funny little pieces of sort of shape and all sorts of colors. George took one out. It looked like a piece of candy. Maybe it was candy. Maybe he could eat it. George put the spit on his mouth. And before he knew, it swallowed it. A while later, the man with the yellow hat came home. Why, George? He said, I think you have already opened the box with the angel powder. It was supposed to be a big surprise for you. Well, let's go to work on it. Finally, the powder was finished. Well, almost finished. The one fish was missing. The man looked for it everywhere, but it could not find it. That's strange, he said. It's a brand new powder. When it cannot be hurt, maybe we find it in the morning. Let's go back. The next morning, George did not feel well. He had a tummy ache and did not want to eat breakfast. The man was worried. He went to telephone and called Dr. Baker. I'll be over as soon as I can, said the doctor. First, Dr. Baker looked down George's throat and his fairly sunny. Then he took out his stethoscope and listened. I'm not sure what's wrong, he said. You better take George to the hospital and have an x-ray taken. I called them and let them know you were coming. Don't worry, George, said the man when they were driving the hospital. You have been busy before when you broke your leg. Remember how nice the doctors and nurses were? George had this big rubber ball tight as they walked up the hospital bus. A nurse took them in a long hallway to the room where she gave George some to drink that looked white and tasted sweet. It is Carbrium, the nurse explained it. It helped the doctor find what is wrong with George. In the time, loaded in is a big table, and the doctor was just putting a heavy Carbrium. Then he gave the man one just like it. George was very curious. What did he take into? No, he did not. You can on that table, George, the doctor said. I'm going to take some x-ray pictures of your inside. She pushed a button and there was a funny noise. There, now you may get up and we will have the x-ray display right away. Now let's see, that is something there should not be, said the doctor when they somewhere looked in at the x-ray. Why that look like? I must say it be the piece was missing in the jigsaw you saw yesterday, said the man. Well, said the doctor. At least we know tomorrow what is wrong with our little partition. After Dr. Baker right away, George will stay at the hospital for a few days. They put a tube down his throat to get the piece out. It's only a small operation. I called nurse and her taking it to the amazing office. Many people are staying out the office. George had to wait too. Look, Basti, said a woman to next him, said to the little girl. There is a curious George. Basti looked up for a minute, but he did not even smile. Basti had never been to hospital before. She was scared. Finally, it was George's son, a pretty long nurse who could not remind how many rooms and how many nurses were there. One nurse wrote down a lot of things about George, his name and the address and what was wrong with him. Another nurse put up back rate on his wrist. It was your name on it, George, he said, so that everybody knew you what you were. Then the pretty young nurse came back. My name is Carol, she said. I'm going to take you to your room now. I'm going to take you to your room now. We could work in children's ward and put you into the bed. There will be lots of children to keep you company. And so it was. There was a lot of children in the room. There were some of it around, others were in their bed, with a doctor or nurse looking after them. They both were having a blue television. Steve had a lap bandage and was staying in the go-kart. Bestie was in bed looking sad. George got a back next to Bestie. George was glad and his bed at last. His tummy was hurting again. The man sat with for a while. Now I have to leave you, George finally said. I'll be back first in the morning before they take you to the operating room. Nurse Carol will talk you in as the time to sleep. Then he left. George just sat tight there and cried. At this moment, the band was back early next morning. The nurse were keeping George very busy. One nurse was taking a temperature. One was taking the blood pressure, one was giving the pill to make you sleepy, George, he said, and one was giving the little shot. It's going to hurt, George, she said, but only for a moment. She took his arm, and George let out a scream. But the needle hasn't touched you yet, said the nurse, laughing. Near knowing then. The nurse laughing. Didn't know it then. That wasn't so bad, was it? No, it really was not, and that anyway, it was over now. By the time the explanation came, if the secretary to wheel them into the operating room, George was getting sleepy. He tried his hard to stay awake. He was curious to see what would happen next. He could see a big table with a bright lamp over in the doctors and nurses around. They had caps on their head and masks over their face. Only eyes were showing. One of the doctors winked at George and patted his head. It was Dr. Baker, who had been to help when it all had started. He looked funny with his mask on, and then George was fast asleep. When George woke up, he didn't know what had happened. He did not even know where he was. Then he saw Nurse Carol. It told on George that they got pissed out. In a day of you two were running around again. The man above the picture, but George felt sick and dizzy. His throat was hurting, too. He was not even curious about the new book. He closed his eyes again. Well, we let him sleep, said Colonel Scott. The more sleep, the better. The next morning, George felt better. He even ate a dish of ice cream. Dr. Baker came to see him, and the man, of course, came too. Bessie was watching him from time to time. She seemed a little less sad, but he still not smiled. Steve, wear this go-kart over to George's bed. Tomorrow I can get up and try to work, he said. Boy, I can hardly wait. I take you to the plane now, George, Nurse Carol said the next morning, and in the afternoon your friend will come and take you home. The playroom was full of children. A lady was showing Betsy how to use a finger paint. There were all sorts of things to play with, even a puppet theater. And that was just the things of George. He had 4 hands, so could handle 4 puppets at the same time. George gave a rare puppet show. There was a dragon and a crown and a bear and a policeman. The children laughed and shouted, and even Betsy for the first time smiled a little. There was a TV set in the playroom and also a record player. George was very curious. Did we remain climb on the player and turn the switch? Would it go round and like a real merry-go-round? It did start slowly, and it went faster and faster, and whee! George lost his balance and was sailed in the air. Luckily, George landed on a soft cushion. The children cheered, and Betsy smiled again. George was so funny. But did the play later pick George up? That's enough for now, she said. You better take a nap before lunch. We have the big day ahead of us. The mayor is coming to visit the hospital today. And later on you will be going home, George. When George woke up, Steve was just taking her first steps. A nurse was helping him, and the children were watching. The golf courts standing were empty. George was curious. He took at it. Then he climbed into it. He grabbed the wheel and that, while nobody was looking, he wheeled the golf cart right out of the room. George could make the golf cart work very fast. That was fun. Down the hill he went. By now, the nurse noticed that he was gone and came right at him. George! George! She shouted. But George was too excited to listen. His wheel around the corner and then the ramp to the floor below. The man was busy pushing the lunch cart when a lot of doctors and nurses showed the mayor around. George tried to stop, but it was too late. The golf cart ran right in the middle of everything. Lunch cucumber, spinach, and scrambled egg and strawberry jam all over the floor. People turned over each other. The George was thrown out the golf cart and ran right in the mayor's arms. What a mess of you! All broke my dishes! Someone cried. He ran the golf cart. Complained another. Why will mayor think of it? Whispered someone else, so it went. Suddenly, everyone looked up and listened. From above their happy laughter. And there stood Betsy, laughing. Then the children joined in. Then the mayor started laughing. And finally, everybody just laughing and laughed. Finally, that is except George. Betsy came running down the ramp. Then threw her arm around George and kissed him. Don't be sad, George, she said. The whole thing was so funny. I never laughed so much in my life. I'm so funny. I'm glad you were in the hospital with me. Now the director of the hospital spoke. I'm sorry it's happened, Mr. Mayor, she said, but I think we just clean up the mess and be alone with it. George, he went, you made our table a mess, but you also made our still sad little Bessie happy again. And that is more than anyone's done. And now I feel friend just can take you home. So goodbye, George, and take your care of yourself. The children closed at the window and waving goodbye, and George at the man with the yellow hat finally leaving the hospital. As the car was turning into the driveway, Nurse car running after them. Here are a package with something to building you, George, he called, but don't open it for home. You have her home. George is curious. Where? Could not be. The moment he reached home, he ripped the paper off, tore open the box, and there was the pieces of the puzzle that had caused the trouble. How nice of the doctor to save it for us, said Man with the yellow hat. Now we can finish the puzzle. The end. Bye bye. See you.